The sleek silver hull of the Horizon Seeker glinted in the starlight as it approached the massive space station orbiting Proxima Centauri. Captain Dae-jin stood on the bridge, his weathered face betraying none of the anxiety he felt. This was humanity's first official contact with the Galactic Council, a moment generations had dreamed of since humans first looked up at the stars. "Final approach, Captain," reported Navigator Sun Ho, her fingers dancing across holographic controls. "The Council has granted us docking permission." "Very good." Dae-jin nodded, straightening his formal blue uniform. "Ambassador Kim, are you ready to make history?" Ambassador June Kim smiled tightly, clutching a small case containing Earth's formal petition for galactic recognition. "As ready as anyone can be to meet beings from 27 different star systems." The docking procedure went smoothly. Too smoothly, June thought. The Council representatives had been polite but distant in all communications. Something felt off, but he dismissed it as natural nervousness. The Council chamber took June's breath away. A massive dome stretched overhead, showing a real-time view of the galaxy's spiral arms. Holographic representatives of species too large, small or environmentally sensitive to attend in person, flickered around the chamber. Those physically present were a biological wonder, crystalline beings that seemed to float rather than walk, reptilian creatures with multiple limbs, and entities that appeared to be living clouds of colored gas. At the center, 7 beings sat, on elevated platforms, the High Council, the oldest and most powerful species in known space. "Humans of Terra, you stand before the Galactic Council," announced a translator device. The voice came from an imposing being covered in iridescent scales. "I am High Councillor Rax. State your petition." June stepped forward, his voice steady despite his racing heart. "Esteemed councillors, I come representing Earth and all of humanity. We seek recognition, knowledge exchange, and peaceful integration into the galactic community." A low murmur rippled through the chamber. Joan continued, describing humanity's achievements, their values, their desire to learn and contribute. As he spoke, he displayed holographic images, Earth's rebuilt cities after the climate wars, the first Mars colony, the breakthrough faster than light, drive that had brought them here. The Council listened in complete silence. When June finished, he expected questions, perhaps even a celebratory welcome. Instead, a different councillor, a being seemingly made of interlocking geometric shapes, leaned forward. "We have reviewed the data on your species. For the past 1,000 cycles, we have observed your development." June felt a chill. "You've been watching us. All emerging intelligent species are monitored," replied Rax dismissively. "Standard protocol." The geometric councillor's voice was cold and mechanical. "Humans developed from predator stock. Your neural patterns show extreme variability. Your societies shift governance structures radically within single generations. Your technological progress occurs at dangerous speeds." June tried to interject, but the councillor continued. "You developed atomic weapons before leaving your atmosphere. You experienced global wars before achieving unity. Your genetic modification programs are unregulated. Your artificial intelligence research proceeds without ethical safeguards." The atmosphere in the chamber had changed. June could feel hostility radiating from many of the delegates. "These are marks of our adaptability," June argued, abandoning his prepared speech. "We learn quickly from our mistakes. We—" "Exactly our concern," interrupted a third councillor, a being seemingly composed of bioluminescent tentacles. "You are dangerous precisely because you learn so quickly. Your species could destabilize established patterns of galactic governance." The Council's decision came swiftly and brutally. Humanity was classified as a Level 3 threat species. All human vessels were restricted to their home solar system. A quarantine boundary would be established at the orbit of the outermost planet. Any human vessel attempting to cross this boundary would be destroyed without warning. "This is unjust," June shouted, his diplomatic training forgotten in his outrage. "You haven't given us a chance to prove ourselves." "We have seen enough," Rax stated flatly. "The judgment is final." "For how long?" June demanded. "When will this quarantine be reconsidered?" The geometric counselor made a sound that might have been laughter. "In perhaps 10,000 years, if your species demonstrates stability." As June was escorted back to the Horizon Seeker, he passed through corridors lined with robotic council guards, sleek humanoid machines with weapons built into their arms. He caught whispers from other species, some seeming to take pleasure in humanity's humiliation, others watching in wary silence. Back on the ship, Captain Day Jin received the news with cold fury. "They can't do this. We've barely begun to explore." "They've already dispatched enforcement vessels," reported Sun Ho grimly. "Massive warships with technology we can't begin to match." The journey back to Earth was tense and silent. June spent hours in his quarters, drafting and redrafting the report he would deliver to the United Earth government. How could he tell humanity they were prisoners in their own solar system? When they finally reached Earth orbit, the news cameras were waiting. Billions watched as Jun Kim stepped off the ship, his face grave. In a speech broadcast to every corner of the planet, he revealed the Council's judgment. Global panic followed. Riots erupted in major cities, stock markets crashed. Religious leaders proclaimed the end times. Military commanders demanded immediate action. In a secure bunker beneath New Geneva, the Earth Security Council gathered for an emergency session. Screens displayed the advancing Council enforcement fleet, already positioning monitoring stations. "Beyond Neptune, we could fight," suggested General Min Park, her eyes hard. "Our new quantum missiles would be like throwing rocks at a star destroyer," interrupted Science Director Lee Jun. "Their technology is centuries ahead of ours." President Hana Sung sat silently, listening to arguments from around the table. Finally, she raised her hand for silence. "We face a choice," she said simply. "Accept imprisonment in our home system or find another way." From the back of the room, a soft voice spoke. All heads turned toward Dr. Jin Su, head of the Quantum Physics Division. "There might be a third option," he said. "The Council's sensors have specific detection parameters. If we could develop drives that operate outside those parameters..." "President." Sung's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. "You're suggesting we could slip past them undetected?" "Not immediately," Jin Su admitted. "But given time and resources..." President Sung stood, her decision made. "Humanity will not be caged. Not by distance, not by physics, and certainly not by some alien council that judged us without knowing. Just..." She looked around the table. "As of this moment, we begin Project Exodus. Tell no one outside this room. The stars will be ours, regardless of what anyone says." Outside, the enforcement ships took up their positions, their weapons aimed inward at Earth. They believed they had contained a dangerous species. They didn't realize they had merely challenged one. Dr. Mina Park wiped sweat from her brow as she made the final adjustments to the quantum displacement prototype. The underground lab beneath the Gobi Desert had become her home for the past 6 years. Outside, the Council's monitor drones regularly swept the skies, but this facility, buried under rock and shielded with experimental technology, remained invisible to their sensors. "Ready for the test?" asked her colleague, Dr. Jun Lee, his voice tight with anticipation. The small group of engineers and scientists gathered around the test chamber fell silent. "As ready as we'll ever be," Mina replied, tapping a sequence. Into her tablet. The device in the center of the chamber, no larger than a microwave oven, began to hum. The air above it shimmered, then seemingly tore apart, revealing a swirling tunnel of blue-white energy. Instruments around the room lit up with readings as the quantum field stabilized. "It's working," shouted Technical Director Quan Ho, punching numbers into his console. "The displacement field is maintaining integrity and, most importantly, it's completely invisible to our replica council sensors." The team erupted in cheers, but Mina remained focused. "Now for the hard part," she muttered. "Scaling this up to power a starship." President Hana Sung received the news with determined calm. 8 years into their confinement, humanity had grown increasingly restless. The Council's patrol ships had shot down 3 vessels that strayed too close to the boundary. Underground resistance movements had formed. Some advocated open war, a suicide option but one gaining popularity as confinement chafed. "How soon until we can implement Project Diaspora?" she asked the assembled scientists and military leaders, Frau. Months to outfit the first ship, Mina answered. But we can't build the vessels on Earth or Mars. The Council watches our shipyards too closely. Fleet Admiral Jin Wu leaned forward. We've been constructing components disguised as orbital habitat sections. They can be assembled quickly in the asteroid belt, where radiation and mineral deposits help mask our activities. And the colonists? Asked the President. We've quietly selected 50,000 volunteers, replied Migration Director Song Mi. Engineers, doctors, farmers, scientists, everything needed to establish self-sufficient colonies. The President nodded grimly. Begin immediate implementation. Earth's future now depends on those who will leave it behind. Under the cover of A massive solar storm, the first colony ship, New Dawn, slipped through the quantum displacement field. Unlike conventional faster-than-light travel, which created detectable ripples in space-time, the displacement drive briefly shifted the vessel into an adjacent dimensional plane before returning it to normal space beyond the Council's detection. Grid. Captain Hyun-sik gripped his command chair as reality itself seemed to stretch and twist around the ship. Alarm klaxons blared as structural integrity alarms triggered. Hull pressure stabilizing, reported his first officer, Ji-yeon. We've cleared the boundary. The bridge crew held their breath, waiting for Council warships to appear. Seconds stretched into minutes. Nothing. We did it, Hyun-sik whispered. Then louder. Set course for the Hera system. Let's make history. Over the next 4 years, 176 colony ships followed, each carrying precious human cargo to star systems carefully selected, to be both habitable and outside regular Council patrol routes. The exodus occurred in complete secrecy, with Earth's official population numbers manipulated to hide the departures. On the frozen moon orbiting Tau Ceti's gas giant, the colony, ship Pioneer, made planetfall. Colony leader Daewon stepped onto the icy surface, his breath clouding inside his helmet. Not exactly paradise, muttered his chief engineer, Min Jae. But it has everything we need, Daewon replied, pointing to the massive crater before them. Natural shielding from detection, ice for water and hydrogen fuel, and deep thermal vents for energy. Over the next months, the colonists carved their home into the moon's crust, building habitats that spiraled downward toward the warm core. Engineers constructed fusion reactors powered by the abundant ice that could be converted to hydrogen. Botanists established hydroponic farms in caverns warmed by the thermal vents, but their most ambitious project lay hidden in the crater itself. Taking advantage of the natural depression and overhead ice clouds that blocked orbital scans, they began constructing humanity's first off-Earth shipyard. The Council expects us to wither and die in our solar system, Daewon told the colonists as they broke ground on the facility. Instead, we'll build a fleet that will one day reclaim our right to the stars. The work was grueling. 6 colonists died when a thermal vent unexpectedly erupted. Food was scarce until the farms were fully operational. But slowly, a functioning society took shape, connected to other colonies through quantum communication devices that operated on the same principles as the displacement drives. Then came the day they'd been dreading. A Council scout ship appeared, in the system, conducting what appeared to be a routine survey. The colony went into complete lockdown, powering down all but essential systems and retreating into the deepest caverns. From a hidden observation post, Daewon and Min Jae watched as the alien vessel, a sleek silver craft with ominous weapon ports, conducted scans of the moon. If they detect us... Min Jae didn't finish the thought. The scout ship lingered for 3 agonizing days. The colonists, huddled in darkness, parents keeping children quiet with whispered stories of Earth. Finally, apparently satisfied that the moon was lifeless, the Council vessel departed. That was too close, Daewon said once systems were restored. We need to accelerate our timetable. Meanwhile, back in the Sol system, the Council had grown suspicious. Their sensors had intercepted fragments of communications suggesting unauthorized human activity. A full inspection fleet arrived at Earth, demanding access to all human facilities. In a bold move, President Sung welcomed them, offering complete transparency, while secretly transmitting warnings to the colonies and remaining ships preparing. for departure. The Council investigators found nothing conclusive, but their commander, a reptilian being named Thax, was not convinced. "Humans are plotting something," he told his subordinates. "Increase patrols along the boundary." But it was already too late. 17 human colonies had been established, connected by the growing network of quantum communicators. When a Council patrol finally detected unusual energy readings from a settlement in the Rigel sector, they arrived to find an abandoned outpost, the colonists having received warning and evacuated to secondary locations. Following the energy trail, the Council forces eventually discovered the colony on Tau Ceti's moon. They expected to find a struggling outpost. Instead, they encountered the first ship produced by the Hidden Shipyard, a vessel specifically designed for combat, with weapons reverse-engineered from Council technology observed during the confinement years. The battle was brief, but decisive. The human vessel, named Defiance, destroyed 2 Council ships before the others retreated. News of the encounter spread quickly through the quantum network. Humanity had not just escaped, they had successfully fought back. The shipyard increased production, while other colonies specialized in agriculture, manufacturing, or scientific research. In the crater shipyard, Day 1 watched as 3 new warships rose from their construction bays, their hulls gleaming under the artificial lights. "The Council thought they could cage us," he said to Minjay. "Instead, they forced us to become stronger, more determined, more unified than we ever were on Earth." "And now?" asked Minjay. Day 1's eyes hardened. "Now we build an empire they can never destroy." The quantum communicator hummed softly as Tai Sung adjusted the dimensional frequency. His office aboard the diplomatic vessel Olive Branch was dimly lit, the only illumination coming from holographic star charts showing human colony worlds scattered across a 300 light-year radius. Each glowing dot represented thousands of human lives, pioneers who had built thriving communities far from Earth. "Connection established," announced his assistant, Ji Min, her fingers dancing over the control panel. "Encryption protocols active." The hologram flickered, then solidified into the imposing figure of an Axillari, a being with 4 arms and iridescent skin that shifted colors with its emotions. Currently, it displayed a cautious blue-green. "Ambassador Tay," the alien spoke, its translator converting complex harmonic tones into human speech. "Your signal reaches us clearly this time. Thank you for meeting with me, Trade Minister Krell," Tay replied with a respectful bow. "Have you considered our proposal?" The Axillari's skin rippled with amber waves, their equivalent of thoughtful consideration. "My government remains hesitant. The Council banned trade with humans 50 standard cycles ago. The same Council that restricts your species to 3 planetary systems and denies you access to advanced medical technology," Tay countered smoothly. "The same Council that classified your people as a secondary species, unfit for full representation." The alien's skin flashed red briefly before settling into a determined purple. "What precisely are you offering?" Tay smiled. This was the moment he'd been working toward during 6 months of careful negotiations. "Medical nanites that can cure the bone deterioration affecting your young. Manufacturing techniques for quantum-enhanced materials. And," he paused for effect, "the coordinates of 2 uninhabited worlds outside Council space, suitable for Axillari. Colonization." The alien's 4 eyes widened. "And in exchange?" "Access to your trade routes, permission to establish a human outpost in your territory, and your crystalline fusion technology." After 3 more hours of negotiation, the deal was struck. As the transmission ended, Ji Min let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. "That makes 7, she said, updating the secure database. 7 non-human species now secretly allied with us." Tay nodded, pouring 2 small glasses of rice wine, a luxury imported from New Seoul, a colony that had recreated Earth's agricultural heritage. "The forgotten races are tired of Council domination. We're simply offering them an alternative." He raised his glass in a toast. "To the Shadow Network, binding together those the Council tried to keep apart." Across human space, the quantum communication network connected colonies that otherwise would have been isolated. Unlike conventional transmission methods, which the Council could intercept. These communicators operated by entangling particles across vast distances, instantaneous and untraceable. On New Earth, the most populous human colony with nearly 5 million inhabitants, Commander Yuna Lee strode through the underground military complex codenamed Forge. Around her, thousands of recruits from dozens of colony worlds trained on advanced combat simulators. Engineers tested prototype weapons. Tacticians studied Council military movements using data gathered by stealthed observation drones. Status. Report, she demanded, entering the command center where her senior staff waited. Fleet Admiral Jin Quan gestured to a holographic display showing vessel movements near the Procyon system. Council patrols have increased by 30% in this sector. They destroyed an unauthorized mining operation last week, not human but Dyraki. Yuna frowned. The Dyraki were insectoid beings, another species marginalized by the Council. Casualties. Total. The Council is becoming more aggressive with all non-compliant species. She turned to her intelligence director, Su Young. What? About our stealth technology? Are we still evading their sensors? So far, Su Young replied, bringing up technical schematics. But their detection systems are improving. Our quantum displacement signature was almost caught during the Rigel supply run. Yuna nodded grimly. Then we accelerate our timeline. How many ships do we have combat ready? 347 vessels across all colony worlds, answered Jin Quan. Most are smaller frigates and corvettes, but the new Mars and Tau Ceti shipyards have completed 15 dreadnoughts. Not enough, Yuna muttered. Not nearly enough if the Council discovers the full extent of our network. The holographic display shifted to show a massive shipyard hidden within an asteroid field. Construction drones swarmed around the skeletal frame of what would become humanity's first supercarrier. The Defiance-class carrier will be operational within 6 months, said Chief Engineer Min Ho with obvious pride. One carrier with its fighter complement can match 5 Council cruisers. Yuna studied the design, her expression softening slightly. My parents were on the original Defiance. They would be proud to see how far we've come. Later that night, Yuna stood on her private balcony overlooking New Earth's capital city. Unlike the hidden military installations, the colony's surface structures proudly displayed humanity's resilience. Skyscrapers of carbon nanofiber rose into the purple-tinged sky. Agriculture domes provided food for the growing population. Children played in parks designed to resemble Earth's natural landscapes, all of it built in just 50 years, from nothing. Her quantum communicator chimed. A priority message from Tae Sung. The Axillari have agreed to our terms, his miniature hologram reported. More importantly, they've shared Council records they've secretly accessed. The High Council is distracted by an internal power struggle. 3 of the 7 High Councillors are challenging Rax's leadership. That's the opportunity we've been waiting for, Yuna replied. How long will this internal conflict last? Their political processes are slow. We estimate 2 to 3 Earth years of instability. Perfect. Enough time to complete our preparations. Meanwhile, light years away, a human scout ship designated Phantom drifted silently near a Council outpost. Its revolutionary adaptive hull absorbed sensor scans rather than reflecting them, rendering the vessel nearly invisible to conventional detection. Inside, Scout Captain Binge and his small crew recorded everything: Council ship movements, communication protocols, weapons systems, information that would prove invaluable when the inevitable confrontation came. Patrol approaching, whispered sensor operator Yunji. Council destroyer, Class 3. The crew held their breath as the massive alien warship passed barely 5,000 kilometers from their position. Its angular hull bristled with weapon ports, capable of vaporizing their small vessel in seconds. Holding position, Binju said, calmly though sweat beaded on his forehead. Passive systems only. The Council ship paused, its sensors sweeping the area. For a terrible moment it seemed to focus directly on them. Then, apparently satisfied, it continued on its patrol route. That's the 3rd time we've gotten close enough to smell their engine plasma, joked the navigator, Dae Hyun, though his relief was evident. One day our luck will run out. Then we better make sure we gather enough intelligence before it does, Binju replied. adjusting their position to continue monitoring the outpost. Back on New Earth, Commander Yuna Lee reviewed the latest reports from the scattered human colonies. Mining operations on Delta Pavonis were producing record amounts of rare metals needed for shipbuilding. Research stations in the Epsilon Eridani system had successfully reverse-engineered Council shield technology. The agricultural colonies were producing surpluses that allowed military build-up without resource shortages. Most promising were reports from the diplomatic corps, where Tai Sung's efforts had borne fruit beyond expectations. Not only had 7 non-human species joined the Shadow Network, but dissatisfaction with Council rule was spreading even among species traditionally loyal to the galactic government. "We were not the first species they marginalized," Yuna told her senior staff. "Only the most recent, and perhaps the one with the determination to finally change the balance of power." She activated a secure communication to all human military installations across their hidden network. Faces appeared on screens, commanders, captains, generals from dozens of colonies. "The time for hiding in shadows is coming to an end," she told them. "When the Council finally discovers us, they will not find scattered refugees but a united force. Humanity will not merely survive, we will reshape the galaxy." The response was unanimous. After 50 years of preparation, the Human Defense Force stood ready. The scattered children of Earth had become a power to be reckoned with, and the Council, still believing they had contained humanity, had no idea what was coming. The sky over Proxima Colony burned. Council warships, 7 massive destroyers with crystalline hulls that shimmered in the planet's orange light, fired relentlessly at the settlement below. Defense shields that had protected the human outpost for decades finally collapsed under the onslaught of concentrated energy beams. Colony Governor Seo Jin watched in horror from the emergency bunker as the settlement's main habitat dome shattered. Warning sirens wailed as atmosphere vented into space, carrying with it the screams of those who couldn't reach shelter in time. "Evacuation status?" she demanded, her voice steady despite the terror gripping her heart. 60% of colonists accounted for in emergency shelters," reported Security Chief Quan Su, his face ashen. "Transport ships are launching, but the Council vessels are targeting them as they break atmosphere." On a display screen, they watched as a civilian transport carrying nearly 300 colonists erupted in flames, torn apart by precision fire from a Council gunship. "We need to buy more time," Seo Jin decided. She activated the colony's quantum communicator, knowing this might be her final act as governor. "This is Proxima Colony, declaring Emergency Protocol 7. We are under direct Council attack. Civilian casualties in the thousands. Request immediate." The bunker shook violently as a direct hit breached the outer layers. Warning lights flashed red as radiation alarms triggered. "They found us," Quan Su said simply. Governor Seo Jin straightened her uniform and faced the security camera, knowing her final message would be transmitted across the human network. "Remember Proxima," she said clearly. Then the ceiling collapsed. The quantum message rippled across human space, reaching every colony world, every military installation, and every diplomatic outpost simultaneously. On the bridge of the dreadnought, "Vengeance!" Admiral J. Park received the transmission with cold fury. "Status of Battle Group Alpha?" he demanded. "All ships report combat ready," responded his tactical officer, Min Ji. "Quantum drives charged and weapons hot." J. Park had prepared for this moment for decades. The 70-year-old admiral had been a junior officer when humanity first began building its shadow fleet. Now he commanded the most powerful battle group ever assembled by human hands. 25 warships, including 3 carriers and the flagship dreadnought. "The Council believes they can still treat us like animals," he told his bridge crew, his voice resonating through the ship-wide communication system. "Today they learn otherwise. All ships execute jump to Proxima System, Combat Formation Delta." Space itself seemed to tear open as the human fleet activated their quantum displacement drives. Unlike earlier models that merely slipped between detection grids, these advanced drives allowed precision jumps directly into a combat zone, a technology the Council believed impossible. The human fleet materialized directly above the Council warships, still bombarding what remained of Proxima Colony. For 3 crucial seconds, The Council vessels registered confusion, their sensors struggling to identify the sudden energy signatures. "All ships, weapons free," ordered Admiral Park. "Execute Operation Thunderbolt." From the human warships erupted a new weapon the Council had never encountered: quantum phase torpedoes that bypassed conventional shields by partially existing in an alternate dimension. The first salvo struck with devastating precision, targeting propulsion systems and weapons arrays. 3 Council destroyers exploded immediately, their crystalline hulls shattering into countless glittering fragments. The remaining 4 attempted evasive maneuvers, finally realizing the magnitude of the threat. "Council vessels are attempting emergency jumps," reported Minji. "Disable their jump drives," commanded Admiral Park. "No survivors, fighter squadrons." Launched from the human carriers, swarming the remaining Council ships like angry hornets. Their smaller profiles made them difficult targets for the Council's heavy weapons, allowing them to deliver precision strikes against vulnerable systems. The battle lasted less than 15 minutes. When it ended, the once mighty Council fleet existed only as debris floating in Proxima's orbit. "Scan for survivors," Park ordered, his expression grim but satisfied. "None detected, Admiral," Minji confirmed. "But we're picking up a distress signal. 1 Council command shuttle launched before we arrived. They're attempting to reach the nearest Council outpost." Admiral Park considered for a moment. "Let them go. I want them to deliver our message." "Sir?" "The message that humanity is no longer hiding. The message that we can strike anywhere. At any time." His eyes hardened as he looked at the devastated colony below. "The message that there is a price for harming our people." Emergency teams descended to the surface, searching for survivors among the ruins. Of nearly 50,000 colonists, fewer than 20,000 had survived the Council's attack, an atrocity that would forever be remembered as the Proxima Massacre. But the Council's victory had been short-lived. Unknown to them, the human response was just beginning. While Battle Group Alpha had engaged at Proxima, 5 other battle groups executed simultaneous strikes against Council military installations across the sector. The quantum communication network allowed perfect coordination, something the Council, reliant on conventional faster-than-light communications with inherent delays, could not match. On the Council core world of Xanthus, High Councillor Rax received the reports with stunned disbelief. "Impossible," he hissed, his scaled skin paling to ash gray. The humans were contained. Their technology was primitive. "Evidently not," replied Council Security Director Mivax, her crystalline form pulsing with agitation. "In a single day, we have lost 32% of our military capacity, 7 major installations destroyed, 15 outposts offline, and worst of all, the quantum barrier around Sol has been completely neutralized. Earth is free." "How?" demanded Rax. "How did they advance so quickly without our knowledge?" "They had help," Mivax said, displaying evidence of communication between humans and other species. "The Axillari, the Daraki, even the Volturians, all species we relegated to secondary status. All secretly trading with humans, sharing technology, resources, treachery." Rax smashed a crystalline fist into the display, shattering it. "Deploy the remaining fleets. Crush these human vermin and any who allied with them. I want their colonies reduced to ash." But the Council's retaliation never materialized. As news of the human victory spread through quantum channels, the so-called forgotten races launched their own rebellions. Council authority collapsed across entire sectors as subject species declared independence. Aboard the Vengeance, Admiral Park received updates from across human space. "The Axillari have seized control of the Council shipyards in their system," reported his communications officer. "The Daraki have neutralized Council forces in 3 sectors. Earth has officially declared the quarantine null and void, with Council enforcers retreating from Sol rather than facing our defense grid." Park nodded, satisfied yet somber. He activated a ship-wide channel. "Today we have shown the galaxy that humanity will not be chained. We struck to avenge our fallen, but our goal was never vengeance alone. For too long the Council has ruled through fear and division. That era ends now." He looked out at the stars, stars that had been denied to humanity, stars that now witnessed the birth of a new power. "We lost Proxima," he continued, "but we gained something greater, not just our freedom, but the chance to build something better than what the Council created. Remember Proxima. Remember what happens when tyrants believe they can act without consequences." Across human colonies and allied worlds, quantum communicators transmitted images of the battle, of human ships destroying the supposedly invincible Council fleet. Species that had lived under Council domination for millennia watched in awe as the galactic order crumbled. The message was clear: the Banished had returned, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The Grand Assembly Hall on New Terra gleamed with light reflected from 1,000 worlds. Crystalline pillars rose hundreds of meters toward a transparent dome that revealed the spectacular nebula beyond, a fitting backdrop for what many were already calling the most significant gathering in galactic history. Chancellor Han Sung stood at the central podium, his simple white uniform a stark contrast to the elaborate diplomatic attire worn by many non-human representatives. At 78, his face showed the lines of a lifetime of struggle, but his eyes burned with the fierce determination that had made him humanity's chosen leader. 100 years ago, he began, his voice carrying effortlessly through the vast chamber, humanity stood alone, condemned by the Galactic Council as too dangerous, too unpredictable to join the community of spacefaring civilizations. The assembly fell silent. Representatives from over 300 worlds, some humanoid, others utterly alien in form, listened intently. Some floated in gravity-nullifying fields, others sat in specialized environmental chambers. A group of methane-breathing Dorellians observed through video feeds from sealed chambers. "We were given a choice between imprisonment or extinction," Han continued. "Instead, we chose a third path, to build something new among the stars, not alone, but with all who shared our vision of a galaxy where no species would dominate another, where innovation would be celebrated rather than feared, where self-determination would be the right of all intelligent beings." From her position near the rear of the hall, Admiral Min Hee, granddaughter of the legendary J. Park, watched with quiet pride. The fleet she commanded, now numbering over 2,000 vessels, protected the trade routes that connected these diverse worlds. Beside her stood representatives of allied species who had contributed their own ships and technologies to the combined defense force. "Look how far we've come together," Han gestured to the assembly. The Axillari brought their expertise in biologics, creating medical technologies that have eradicated diseases across our territories. The crystalline Tellarites shared their knowledge of quantum engineering, revolutionizing our power generation. Humans contributed our adaptability and drive for innovation. On a balcony overlooking the proceedings, young diplomat Jun Ho felt a surge of emotion. His great-grandparents had been among those who fled Earth on the first colony ships. They had lived in hidden outposts, always watching the skies for Council enforcers. Now their descendant helped shape policy for an alliance that spanned a quarter of the galaxy. "Today," Han declared, raising his hands, "we formalize what we have built together. No longer a loose coalition of rebels and refugees, but a true interstellar alliance. The human imperium is born, not named for human dominance, but to honor those whose exile began our journey toward true galactic partnership." The assembly erupted in thunderous approval, a cacophony of sounds as each species expressed support in their own way. The Diraki clicked their mandibles in rhythmic patterns. The gaseous Vorlons pulsed with bright colors. Human delegates applauded. Then, cutting through the celebration, came an insistent tone. The massive doors at the far end of the chamber slid open. Security drones moved into defensive positions as a delegation of council representatives entered, their first official appearance in Imperium space in decades. The lead figure, High Ambassador Thex, moved with the fluid grace of his serpentine species. His scales gleamed with embedded ceremonial jewels denoting his high status. 4 council guards, biomechanical constructs programmed for absolute loyalty, flanked him. Chancellor Han's expression remained impassive as the council delegation approached the central podium. The celebration quieted to tense silence. Ambassador Thex," Han acknowledged with a precise, minimal bow. "The council honors us with its presence." Thex's vertical pupils narrowed. I bring a message from the High Council itself. This gathering violates the established order of galactic governance. The association you call the Imperium has no legal standing. The Council demands its immediate dissolution. A murmur of anger rippled through the assembly. Junho tensed, noticing how the Council guards' weapon arms shifted subtly into ready positions. Rather than responding immediately, Chancellor Han turned to the assembly. Shall we show our guests what the Imperium truly represents? At his gesture, the dome above darkened, transforming into a massive display. It showed thousands of worlds connected by glowing trade routes, defensive outposts, and research stations. Highlighted regions indicated territories now under Imperium protection, nearly a quarter of the known galaxy. The Council no longer has the authority to make demands of us, Han said calmly. The old order you represent has failed too many for too long. The Imperium offers a different path. Ambassador Thex's composure slipped. This is rebellion. The Council will not stand for... The Council will adapt or it will become irrelevant, interrupted a new voice. From among the Axillari delegation, Elder Krell stepped forward, his forearms bearing the ceremonial markings of his people's highest leadership. For 10,000 cycles, the Council claimed to represent all spacefaring species, while actually serving only the original founding races. That time is ended. One by one, representatives from formerly subjugated species rose to speak. The Dyraki Hive Speaker, the Volturian Prime Synapse, the Tellarite Crystal Mind, all adding their voices in support of the new alliance. Ambassador Thex looked around, his confidence visibly faltering as he realized the true scope of what had formed beyond the Council's notice. The Council still controls substantial military forces, he warned, falling back on threats. This provocation could lead to open conflict. Admiral Min Hee stepped forward, her uniform bearing the battle honors of a dozen engagements. We've already proven ourselves in combat, Ambassador, but unlike the Council, we don't threaten, we invite. Your worlds would be welcome in the Imperium, with full rights and representation. Impossible, Thex hissed. The Council has ruled for 50,000 years, and perhaps it's time for something new, Chancellor Han suggested mildly. We extend our hand in peace, but we will defend what we've built. The choice is yours. The true meaning of the moment dawned on Thex's face. This was not a negotiation or a plea for recognition. It was a courtesy notification to a fading power. The Council will consider your words, he finally said, his earlier arrogance replaced by uncertainty. As the Council delegation withdrew, the assembly erupted once more in celebration. Junho found himself standing beside a young Axillari diplomat. Your ancestors were right to fear humans, the alien observed, its skin shifting to an amused purple. You did exactly what they predicted. You changed everything. Junho smiled. We had good help. From the central podium, Chancellor Han raised his hands for attention once more. The path forward will not be easy, he cautioned. The Council will not relinquish its power without struggle. But today marks the beginning of a new era, one where no species faces exile for being different, where innovation is celebrated rather than feared, where we stand together as equals under the stars. Above them, the dome cleared again to reveal the spectacular vista of space, the nebula's swirling colors like a cosmic painting celebrating their achievement. The species that had once been banished as too dangerous had indeed proven the Council right. Humans had changed the galaxy forever, but not through destruction as the Council had feared. Through unity, through hope, through the unbreakable determination to forge their own destiny among the stars. The end.